On November 1st, 1911, during the Italo-Turkish War, Italian pilot Giulio Gavotti flew over Ain Zara in his Etrich Taube aircraft and dropped the bombs he carried onto Ottoman positions. Although no casualties were reported, this incident went down in history as the world's first aerial bombing. From that moment on, as the advantages of aviation in warfare became increasingly evident, aircraft rapidly evolved. However, despite these advancements, most planes still could not remain airborne for more than a few hours. This severely limited their operational range. To carry more troops, bombs, or cargo further, engineers came up with the idea of refueling aircraft midair. This concept would, in later years, revolutionize military aviation. Welcome to Extraordinary Aviation Designs. In this video, we will explore the history, mechanics, and future of aerial refueling, a capability frequently used in military aviation and one that nations strive to acquire due to its immense strategic importance. At first glance, aerial refueling may appear to be nothing more than a hose connecting two aircraft, but from an engineering perspective, it is far more complex. Factors such as aerodynamic turbulence as aircraft approach each other, pressure balance in the fuel tanks of both planes during transfer, the fuel's temperature, hose oscillation, and altitude differences between tanker and receiver all play critical roles in ensuring a safe refueling operation. Because of these challenges, it took decades of both successful and failed tests before a reliable system was perfected. Aerial refueling is considered not merely a technical achievement, but a revolution in aviation history, one that altered the balance of strategic power by freeing aircraft from the limitations of their onboard fuel supply. As long as mission duration and range were dictated by engine power and internal fuel capacity, operational planning remained tied to the location of airbases or carrier decks. With aerial refueling, however, aircraft could loiter over target areas for extended periods, reach far more distant objectives, respond flexibly to sudden operational needs. A fighter jet that once could stay aloft for only 40 minutes could now perform critical missions for hours. When the idea first emerged, it seemed nearly impossible to engineers and pilots alike. After all, having two planes fly dangerously close at high speed and altitude while transferring a flammable substance like fuel was a major technical and operational risk. Yet aviation history is filled with examples of the impossible becoming reality through engineering, courage, determination, and audacity. The earliest experiments in aerial refueling involved transferring fuel from the ground or dropping fuel cans from one plane to another, methods that were quickly abandoned due to their inefficiency and danger. More serious attempts began in the early 1920s. In 1923, the U.S. Army Air Service connected two DH-4B biplanes with a 15-meter hose for a fuel transfer. A crew member in the receiving plane manually caught the dangling hose and plugged it into the fuel tank. In August 1923, a refueled DH-4B remained airborne for 37 hours, setting a record. A follow-up demonstration proved the method's long-range viability by flying non-stop from Washington to Mexico. However, during another test, a refueling hose became entangled in a propeller, resulting in the aircraft's loss. The incident highlighted the method's high risks. In the 1930s, British aviator Sir Alan Cobham developed the looped hose system to make aerial refueling safer. In this method, the tanker passed a fuel hose to the receiver via a steel cable. Using this technique, an aircraft in 1935 managed a non-stop flight from London to India. By 1938, Cobham's company, Flight Refueling Limited, had produced the first commercial in-flight refueling system. In the final year of World War II, the Royal Air Force fitted Lancaster and Lincoln bombers with this system for operations against Japan, though the war ended before they were used. The U.S. military also experimented with aerial refueling, but commanders saw little tactical value at the time, opting instead to enlarge aircraft for greater fuel capacity. After the war, however, Air Force sought to maintain part of its nuclear arsenal continuously airborne. To achieve intercontinental strike capability, aerial refueling became a necessity. This led to the GEM program, which converted 100 B-29 bombers with refueling equipment, while 60 others were modified into tankers. Using this system, the B-50 Lucky Lady II became the first aircraft to circumnavigate the globe nonstop in 1949, refueled 4 times midair over 94 hours. Despite the success, the system was cumbersome, slow, and foreign built, prompting the search for an American solution. The USAF turned to Boeing, which developed the revolutionary flying boom system. This design used a telescoping rigid fuel pipe mounted at the rear of the tanker, controlled by an operator who guided it into the receiver aircraft. Compared to the British looped hose, this method delivered fuel 4 to 5 times faster and allowed refueling at higher speeds and in rougher weather conditions. Between 1950-51, 116 B-29s were converted into KB-29 tankers, followed by the KC-97 and the jet-powered KC-135 Stratotanker. The KC-135 could carry 118,000 liters of fuel and refuel aircraft at speeds between 350-650 kilometers per hour. When necessary, it could also carry passengers or cargo. Meanwhile, the British developed the probe-and-drogue basket system in 1949 at the request of the USAF for use on fighter aircraft. In this method, a flexible hose trailing from the tanker ended in a basket-shaped drogue. The receiver aircraft extended a probe, inserted it into the basket, and received fuel. This allowed one tanker to refuel multiple aircraft simultaneously. During the Korean War, F-84 fighters equipped with this system stayed airborne for 14 hours and 15 minutes. In the 1950s and 60s, while the USAF relied mainly on the boom method with KC-97s and KC-135s, Britain and several NATO allies adopted the probe-and-drogue system. The Soviet Union also developed its own systems, mainly favoring the drogue method, adapting Tu-95 bombers and MiG-31 interceptors for refueling. China initially copied Soviet designs, but later created its own tankers. Naval aviation also embraced aerial refueling, though with unique challenges. Aircraft carriers could not accommodate large tankers like the KC-135, so the U.S. Navy adapted aircraft such as the Ka-3B Sky Warrior and later the S-3 Viking for refueling roles. In the 1990s, F-A-18 Hornets were fitted with buddy store pods to refuel other aircraft. The Royal Navy employed similar systems for Sea Harriers and Tornadoes. Helicopters, too, sought this capability, though their slower speeds and rotor dynamics made aerial refueling especially difficult. The U.S. military overcame these challenges by fitting long refueling probes on MH-7 Chinooks and MH-60 Black Hawks, enabling them to connect with KC-130 Hercules tankers. At sea, helicopters could also refuel using a system called HFIR, which transferred fuel directly from ship to helicopter in flight, without the need to land. Looking to the future, the greatest transformation in aerial refueling will likely come from unmanned systems. The U.S. Navy has begun introducing the MQ-25 Stingray, an unmanned tanker designed to relieve FA-18s of refueling duties and eventually take over the Navy's refueling missions entirely. With 4 prototypes already undergoing tests and additional orders placed, the Navy plans to expand its fleet to 72 Stingrays at a cost of $13 billion. Farther into the future, researchers are exploring energy transfer technologies such as directed energy beams, lasers, or microwaves to power electric aircraft from the ground or even from space. Theoretically, such systems could allow drones to remain airborne almost indefinitely. What began as a risky, complex, and experimental idea has, over the decades, become a routine part of modern military aviation, thanks to advances in aerodynamics, precision control, and shared operational experience. Yet every aerial refueling remains a high-stakes maneuver, requiring 2 heavily loaded aircraft to fly dangerously close at high speeds. Successful execution demands not just advanced technology, but also the trust, skill, and experience of pilots and operators alike. Thank you for watching Extraordinary Aviation Designs. If you found this video informative, please like and share it. You can also support our channel by clicking the thanks button or joining as a member. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our videos on the extraordinary designs of the aviation world.